as you mentioned, I'm a student and I'll be finishing my PhD this semester, and we'll be starting as an investor at Longitude Capital soon. So today I'll be talking about Compass Pathways. This is a publicly traded company that recently released an approvable data set in treatment-resistant depression. This is a very devastating indication without many treatment options, and this is a new modality or new mechanism. Um, that should be approved as a new therapy soon. The headline data or headline result here is a statistically significant improvement in the primary endpoint, MADRS, which is a symptom score assessed by clinicians. And this was observed at week 6 in a very heavily pretreated treatment-resistant depression indication. The notable aspects of this data are fast onset of action. You can see immediately on day 2, patients start feeling much, much better and resolution of their depressive effects. And also, this is as I'll talk about later, this is a classic psychedelic. And I guess people are really concerned about psychedelic side effects like hallucinations. Another aspect of the data was fast resolution of these side effects. Um, and so, as I stated, this is an approvable data set, meaning that this is the second of 2 phase 3 trials. Comp 06 is the second one, Comp 05 was the first one. This was coming after also a phase 2b trial published in the New England Journal of Medicine. As you can see, both of the clinical trial results, the effect sizes are plotted on this graph, overlaid on each other. The effect size, if you're not familiar with depression endpoints, a delta of 3.6 points or 3.8 points in the MADRS is quite clinically significant, though is not like a home run. It's a significant result for TRD patients. Next slide. So as I mentioned, this is a psychedelic. So this is synthetic psilocybin. And so when you think about a psychedelic, you're really concerned about hallucinogenic side effects like headache, nausea, hallucination in particular. A lot of patients are anxious after taking psychedelics as well. And I think the notable part about this study is that looking at both Comp 05 and Comp 06, which are again the first and second of 2 large phase 3 trials, the interesting point is that though many people experience side effects, around half or more people are experiencing some sort of side effect like headache, nausea, or hallucination. The important thing is that most of these side effects are resolving within a day. So patients are having their initial psychedelic trip, which might include a headache, nausea, hallucination, but these are mainly resolved acutely. And so this was a major safety finding from this trial. Next slide. So if you're not familiar with what psychedelics are, these are synthetic molecules that, well, the Compass has developed a synthetic version of a psilocybin, which is derived from what are commonly called magic mushrooms. So these are compounds found in nature that people have found to have psychedelic effects, which are hallucinations and general reset or change in behavior after taking these type of mushrooms orally. Um, many groups have studied these compounds and found that the molecular mechanism really resolves around agonization of 5-HT2A receptors. 5-HT2A is most commonly known as the serotonin receptor. And many classic psychedelics, including psilocybin, LSD, DMT, these are all acting on 5-HT2A receptors. Non-classic psychedelics or other forms of um, compounds that are able to give you hallucinogenic effects. It might include MDMA or ketamine. These are commonly referred to as non-classic psychedelics and act on different pathways. But here we're really focused on 5-HT2A. Many groups have looked at, why these compounds, despite having their hallucinogenic properties, are also able to improve aspects of mood and resolve depression. I think there are many mechanisms that are still being studied, but a couple of them are listed on the bottom. These are increasing dendritic spine growth and pyramidal neurons in particular. So you think about neuroplasticity, these drugs are actually capable of regrowing dendritic spines in specific populations of neurons. Another big effect of these drugs is widespread changes in functional coherence. If you're unfamiliar with what that is, functional coherence measures coordination of various regions of the brain. So what they do is they will administer some sort of metabolite that's utilized by the brain. And what you can do is while someone's doing various tasks, you can see particular regions of the brain light up at the same time. And so that coordination is really important. And measures of that coordination is called functional coherence. And so the big thing that these psychedelics do are desynchronize brain activity so that it's not necessarily specific parts of your brain acting at the same time in synchronized fashion, but rather there's broad scale activation of many different parts of your brain at the same time. And functionally, what this means is that it really has the same effect as really like behaving like a totally different person, at least while you're taking the drug. And so the idea is that both through regrowth of dendritic spines in certain populations of neurons, and also this widespread desynchronization of brain processes is able to lead to long-term changes in behavior, such as reductions in depression. Next slide. So I always like to think about financing and product commercialization as well, because I think this leads, it really directly impacts how many patients are actually going to benefit from these type of therapies. So Compass recently released initial data from their second phase 3 trial that I just talked about. But the full NDA completion is expected in fourth quarter of this year, following the full 26-week study data that are supposed to come in third quarter of 2026. And then the company plans to launch this drug by year end of 2026. You can see they've raised a decent amount of money recently. This past week and also the week before, they raised $150 million in a public offering and then had the exercise of 200 million in outstanding warrants, which again they hope to utilize for commercialization. I like to include, some understanding of how the stock price has performed over the past 5 years. This story has been around for a really long time, and as you can see, based on the stock price, it's really kind of taken a beating over the past 5 years. It's still an $841 million market cap company, but as I'll talk about later, there's reasons for why investors don't assign much value, even though the data is significant. There's reasons why I'll talk about later why the stock has been beaten down for sure. Just briefly talking about market sizing on the bottom of this slide, depression is a really large indication. Most people, know someone with depression. There's 23 million adults in the U.S. Who have depression, 12 million that have been treated in the past year, and a select population of 4 million that have failed two or more antidepressants and are considered treatment resistant. And importantly, aside from what will be Compass's approved drug, there's only one other drug that's approved, which is Spravato. And then on the next slide, I'll talk about Spravato a little bit. Next slide. So again, as I mentioned, there's only one other drug approved for treatment-resistant depression, which is a really hard indication to treat, and this is Spravato. Spravato is an intranasal injection of basically just ketamine, which is another non-classic psychedelic. Um, Spravato is FDA approved. They had a go back. Sorry, previous slide is FDA approved. The effect size is relatively similar to Compass's drug. In fact, a little bit better, -4 points on an MADRS versus -3.6 and -3.8 for Compass's drug. But the issue with Spravato is that you need to be taking it once every week or so, while Compass's drug ideally has longer durability. Namely, it should be taken maybe once or twice a year. Um, both of them are generally well tolerated, but I think the reason why people are excited about Compass's drug are the fast onset, in that immediately on day two they feel much better, and also this durability. You don't need to be constantly taking a drug. Next slide. And so I'll also talk a little bit about competition from other psychedelics and other groups developing similar drugs as Compasses. I'll mention four companies in particular, which each kind of have a very similar type of drug. These are all 5-HT2A agonists, just like Compass's synthetic psilocybin. Cybin is one public company that has basically the same drug, except they deuterate it to alter the PK, and this one's in stage 3, phase 3 clinical trials. GH Research has a sort of different analog called 5-MeO-DMT. which is another classic psychedelic. This is a slightly different molecule and has multiple different ways of differentiating, including that their drug is inhaled as a separate mechanism of administration, and also as a different molecule has a slightly different hallucinogenic properties. Um, Beckley Psytech or Atai has a similar drug as GH Research. It's an intranasal administration rather than inhaled, but this is another DMT analog. And then finally, most notable is Gilgamesh, which was acquired for 1.2 billion by AbbVie. They have a short-acting 5-HT2A agonist, and the reason I think why this one was particularly impressive was really strong efficacy on this MADRS score of a minus 21.6 point change. And remember, Compass's drug only had a minus 3.8 point change, so this one is particularly fantastic. Um, I think things to highlight, Compass's psilocybin drug is more of a procedure in that, it requires several aspects in order for it to be administered, including a long medication washout or taper period for other serotonergic meds before dosing. There's multiple prep sessions with a therapist before you actually get the drug, and you have one supervised psilocybin session, which might be multiple hours with a licensed professional in order for it to be administered. So it's not a typical drug. And you also have multiple post-session integration visits to, process the experience and make sure that side effects are minimized. So in summary, I think there's multiple aspects in which next generation psilocybin analogs can differentiate, specifically on administration and also efficacy. Next slide. And so summary, I think the important points to remember, Compass Pathways is going to be the first to market with a novel treatment mechanism for TRD. The effect size is respectable with acute onset of action and manageable side effects, but not probably as strong as other next generation psilocybin analogs. And this might be hampered commercially by an onerous and long procedure for administration. These work by agonizing 5-HT2A and causing neuroplasticity and brain desynchronization. And then again, I'll mention several other groups are running additional clinical trials to improve upon this first generation approach, one of which is Gilgamesh, which was recently acquired for $1.2 billion. And that's it. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Dennis. That's great. I really enjoy. I do have two questions. One question is, what's the major side effects? Can be the major one of the major concerns? And the
Yeah,
second
so I
question,
guess
yeah, you can first. Yeah, first question first. Yeah,
I guess for
please.
the side effects, yes. So psilocybin is a known hallucinogenic compound. So like when you take magic mushrooms, you have all sorts of hallucinations while you're taking them. And so the idea is that when you're taking this drug, you're with a licensed therapist so that they can help you process the experience. But of course, this drug is, hallucinations are a very clear on-target side effect, which next generation approaches hope to, improve on.
So this is definitely related to my second questions. Since this chemical is from the magic mushroom, right? Natural substance. So and there are quite a lot competition from other companies. So how the patent landscape looks like how other companies, especially to protect their IPs.
Yeah, it's very interesting. A lot of private foundations, like not even for-profit companies, are running large psilocybin trials, and there's a lot of academic research centers that specifically study psilocybin. So I think that's like another really great point, which is that psilocybin, just like the compound, is not patented. Compass has their own synthetic psilocybin compound, which they have submitted patents and for like an oral capsule form of it. And so I think that the that composition is maybe patented, but administering psilocybin is going to be something that's like very non-protectable, I'll say. So that's like I think a major reason why investors are kind of skeptical about like the commercial prospects of this
Yeah,
drug.
yeah, I can see that. But there might be some kind of later time, especially when if Compass someday get approved, and then maybe second company, third company, they might have some I don't know. That will be very funny in the later time.
Yeah,
So
exactly. I think other companies have like differentiated molecules. Like Gilgamesh's molecule is clearly different, but Compass's is hard because it's literally the exact same
yeah,
compound as what's in magic mushrooms.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a great talk. So we can wrap up quickly with two questions. One is the question from audience. Given FDA's new default trial standard, do you think single trial will be sufficient for depression in the future?
Yeah, I think we'll see. I think we'll see how trustworthy the FDA is about accepting a single trial. I will say that depression trials and trials in mental health are notoriously noisy, so it's possible that
Mhm.
certain diseases they allow a single trial, but others they might also require two trials. So we'll see. I guess the current FDA is a little bit
Yeah,
unreliable
unpredictable.
sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. The final question. We know that Johnson Johnson's esketamine is going through the RAMS pathway, risk evaluation and mitigation strategy, which limit their distribution. Do you think this one also going to have the RAMS or without RAMS?
Yes, yes. So this one will for sure have a REMS designation. I think people are pretty comfortable with it because it is a procedure and that you have to be with the therapist while you're taking the drug. So I think it's it's a highly regulated type of administration. So it's definitely going to hamper commercial performance. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much for, we definitely welcome you to come to us more, Dennis.
Thanks.
Can I
Yeah.
ask
Thank you,
a
Danny.
quick question? Just, I know it's late. How specific is that spine growing effect for? Do the spine only grow with the psychedelics, or some other chemicals can cause the same? And also, is the spine density correlate with the efficacy?
So I guess two parts of the question. So first of all, like I think I think when they did that study, they were trying to find you know what the mechanism of action of different psychedelics are. I'm sure that other molecules are capable of having this dendritic spine growth. I don't think it's specific to the effects of psychedelics. And I think it's a broad effect by agonizing 5-HT2A that you can see these kind of effects. So I don't think it's specific to psilocybin in particular. And then to the second question about like whether it's correlated with efficacy. Obviously, they're not, yeah, I think this is in a mouse, right? So there's no way for them to actually
Yeah.
determine whether there's dendritic spine growth in pyramidal neurons. I think this is just some preclinical data to show potentially how it's working, but I guess no one knows for sure.
But this molecules actually looks to me is quite pleiotropic, right?
Yes, yes, very
Multifunctional.
pleiotropic. Yeah.
Yeah, so I know side effect might be related to other MOAs. So I think it might be possible someday some company will develop more I don't want to say more potent, like more specified, right?
Yes. So
Have less effect or less side effect or yeah, that definitely there's lots of stuff going on later time to develop better ones. And that would be very interesting for the future.
yeah, very sure.
All right.
Fantastic.
So Ethan, wrap up.